When you're looking back at your life, what is something that you're glad that you did?
What was that?
Looking back at your life, what is something you're glad that you did?
I'd say
Oh,
everything
travel.
we did.
Travel.
Travel.
Oh, yes.
So you would say if you've got the money, if you were able to do it, go travel.
Well,
We
even if you don't have the money.
Still go travel.
We're going to
Make memories.
We're going to Colorado next month.
You're going to Colorado next month. Where are you going?
Fort Collins and Boulder.
You're just gonna go?
We're going to
drive.
You're gonna drive. You guys are amazing. You're giving me so much hope.
We'll probably drive up Long Street.
The whole deal? You'll just drive?
Fairways Road.
And you guys don't worry that like you're 101 and you're 98, like maybe something might happen?
Well, that's only a figure.
You just figure, so what? We're already here, so.
No, we've never had an accident.
Never had a problem? Unbelievable. You guys are amazing. What is something you guys look back and wish you had done?
Very few things.
Very few. That's probably why you lived so long.
I think it's helped.
Well, we talked about this. Your favorite stage of life, you said probably high school for you.
Oh, yeah.
Was Jesus in the center? When did you see him move mountains in your marriage? Was Jesus a part of your marriage?
Jesus part of my life?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Was it a part of your marriage as well?
Oh, it's part of my life.
And you think he's been a big part of where you go?
My life?
Uh-huh.
Oh, absolutely. I can remember the Moody Bible Institute?
No.
Well, the Moody Bible Institute is in Chicago. And they used to come out and give sermons, and have altar calls and all of this. And I remember as a little girl, I went to this meeting. All of us did. And my older sister wanted to go there. And, but it was so expensive at that time. She couldn't. But she was saving money for it. But anyway, I remember these altar calls, and they were beautiful. And I remember going up and accepting Jesus.
Wow.
That was part of my life. In the country, that's what you did. You went to church. And my mother, I would not dare not go to church.
It was a big deal.
A big deal is right.
And you guys still go every Sunday?
Pardon?
You still go every Sunday?
Try to.
We
go to Sunday school.
But we're not church members.
Huh?
We're not church members.
But you go.
Yeah.
Mother's
father was
a religion. I've studied the Old Testament, New Testament very carefully, and although I'm not a theologian, I think I have greater insight into
the Bible,
the Bible and how it was written, and what it really means for civilization.
That's awesome.
So where I can not go. I actually feel that mankind has formed a relationship with the Creator, and this takes many different forms. We have part of our family is Jewish, and we've been to Tel Aviv, we've been to Jerusalem.
Have you been to Jerusalem? You've been to Jerusalem?
We've associated with people in Jerusalem. We've been to religious organizations and museums there. We visited most of the sites in Bethlehem and other places. But I'm a more scholarly approach to religion.
Understood. I like that. You probably know a lot about the Bible.
I know a lot about the Bible by default because we had no TV, and my grandmother had vision. And for the 10 years of my life with her, I studied the Old Testament with her. She had a big print Bible, and so we spent hours every day doing that. So much so that I pretty well know the scriptures.
Really well.
Pretty well.
I always laugh because my daughter says, "Mom, there's nothing on TV. I'm so bored, there's nothing to do." And I'll say, "Ella, nothing to do because there's no TV." I said, there was a time when they didn't have TV at all.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I tell her.
No, Ella,
We just had a radio.
Yeah.
It was just a little thing.
Okay, somebody wants to know, what do you guys eat regularly? What do you eat?
Very little red meat.
Red meat?
Very little.
Very little red meat.
I don't.
Yeah.
We don't eat much meat.
We have cereal.
If you do eat meat, what do you eat? Fish?
Yes.
Fish, we have salmon last season.
A lot of salmon? Yeah, I love fish.
Yeah, I do.
You eat a lot of vegetables and fruits?
Glass of wine.
Oh, very much.
And you have a glass of wine? Just one or two? Or
Just one. One glass of wine.
Mine's about this much.
About 200 milliliters.
It's not very much. Nah.
Okay. What are the best financial decisions you made to secure and enjoy your later years?
Bought homes.
Bought homes.
Bought homes. I think
Buy a house.
Buy a house.
Buy a
We
house.
bought 20 houses. I don't know.
Oh, along the years. Okay, this is a Do you still French kiss?
No.
No.
Just regular kiss.
I just give him a kiss goodnight.
Kiss goodnight. Okay.
Oh, sometime in the morning.
Always in the morning.
Always in the morning. Okay, somebody said, what is your secret to a successful marriage?
I think independence. We allow one another a great deal of independence in terms of our own decisions, our own careers, the activities which we involve, and understanding of the other person. We're not.
Always be successful.
I love that.
And we support the success of the other person.
Like, you know how they always say, like, there's an old saying, you complete me, but that's not really true. You have to be complete yourself to be in a successful marriage. Like, I'm married to an emergency room doctor. I don't see him very much, maybe 10%. So I have to be strong in who I am. And when I see him, we have fun, but we're not codependent on one another. You know?
Well, I wouldn't say that I was always in on everything. He was so busy at the university.
Okay, somebody wants to know, what's your love story? When did you meet? How did it all happen? And how old were you?
This would be unbelievable. I came home from the Marine Corps. I had no college. And I just started college at Nebraska Wesleyan University. And we had a basketball game in Hastings, Nebraska. And so a couple guys and myself said, let's go to the basketball game. So we drove to Hastings. And I remembered I had an old girlfriend studying nursing. And she was doing...
How old were you at the time?
I'm Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
I'm Marine Corps, 24, 23. And so I called Jean, and she said, no, Walt. She says, I'm going with Mark. We're going steady, but I want you to meet Irene. So Irene and I went to a basketball game in Hastings, Nebraska. And we had sandwiches afterwards and a Coke or something. And I took her back to the hotel, back to the dormitory. I kissed her. And came back the next week and met her. And we've been going ever since.
And you've been going together ever since.
So we were married 6 months later, in November of 1946, for a Thanksgiving Day vacation of my first year of college. And we drove to Chicago, and Irene met us at the Stevens Hotel. Stevens Hotel is now the Hilton.
The Hilton. I'm gonna sit this way now, just let you guys be in the camera. So let me ask you this. What was your wedding like?
You
Didn't you tell her?
I'm telling you that now.
Okay.
Our wedding, when we got to the Stevens Hotel, Irene said, let's get married. So we did.
That's awesome.
We married on Saturday. I bought a ring in the loop. It cost $10. And she had a diamond ring. She had a diamond, but she didn't have the wedding band. So Dwayne and I walked over to the loop, went to a pawn store, and paid $10 for a wedding band. And we were married, and of course I replaced it later on with a wedding ring. But
did you guys have a song?
You know,
What was your song?
song?
Mm-hmm.
The song I remember mostly was when I was driving back to pick Irene up after we were married. She went back to Michigan, I went
Good
back to
night,
Nebraska.
Irene.
Good night, Irene. And there was no super highways in those days. So I was driving through little highway towns listening to the radio. And they kept playing Good Night, Irene, Good Night, Irene, all the way back to Michigan. That would become almost our favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Love at First Sight?
It was.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been,
And you said you had a girlfriend before, but had you ever
well,
dated?
before I went to the Marines,
Mm-hmm.
this high school type.
Did you have a girlfriend or boyfriend? Boyfriend?
She had lots of boyfriends.
Yeah, lots of
She was,
I did.
Lincoln, Nebraska was the side of the Air Force.
Do you have any
Base.
pictures of you guys back then?
We'll probably do it.
I'd love to see those.
So,
You got a picture of Walt in service on my dresser.
she's nursing the Air Force Base right there in Lincoln. So the girls, they were dormitory. So the Air Force would just, all over the dormitory with girls.
How many children did you guys have?
3 daughters.
And they're all still alive.
3 daughters.
That would be the one thing.
They're all professionals, like you.
Business. I bet that would be the one thing you would worry about when you live this long, which you would hope that you would not outlive your children. What I mean by is that you wouldn't lose a child.
Never
thought about it?
Never thought about what.
Losing a child because you've lived so long. My mother, unfortunately, we lost my brother in August, and watching her go through that pain
Painful.
is very painful. So the fact that you guys have not is a blessing, because your children are probably in their 70s now, right?
Our children, like Judy, I told you about her. Diane, who lives in Iowa, is a nurse practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
Successful career in hospitals and hospital research, stroke research. She's married to a banker, and they travel internationally. Our daughter Mary is married to a physician, now retired, in Woodby Island in Washington State. And
Don't rock.
Jim?
Don't rock.
Don't rock.
Oh.
Don't rock. Okay. Do I complete this?
What?
You want to help me?
I'm not hearing you, honey.
So we're just talking about your children. So one of them's married to a physician, one of them's married to a banker,
And Judy, of course, is here.
and Judy's here.
And Judy's husband is a professional dog trainer.
What was one of the hardest times during your marriage, and how did you get through it?
We had no hard times.
No hard times. So, you guys have a spat occasionally.
No, we don't. Because we're not codependent, we don't argue.
Really?
We don't.
You don't ever argue?
No, I won't. I refuse to argue. What's there to argue about?
So if Irene does something that just it irritates you, what do?
Nothing.
Same with you?
I don't. What's there to irritate?
That's awesome.
We live a pretty low stress life.
Just leave a low stress life.
Yeah. We don't always agree, but we allow the other person to disagree. So it's not a big deal.
You know what I said at first about being supportive? If you aren't supportive of him, had I not been supportive, we would never have got through college, because it was a real hardships many times because you didn't have the money.
Well,
But you somehow got through it.
in my career, it caused me travel radio. I've been doing research and writing, and I did lots of consultancy. I did 146 evaluations at colleges and universities. So just a lot of activity. I was in Washington, D.C. almost every week. I was at the University of Missouri. I wrote grants, $15, $20 million worth of grants. So
don't.
I was pretty busy as a professional. And I knew people. Sometimes I would see people say, from D.C. or from Washington State or from California more often than I see my neighbors.
You guys are teaching me a lot because my husband and I bicker all the time, but it's really about stupid things.
You should.
That's exactly what it
It's
is.
stupid things. You don't even remember
But
what it was.
you want him to be successful, don't you?
Exactly, I do. And I notice the more supportive
He
I
wants you to
am.
be supportive.
Exactly. So that's awesome. Okay, so it's another question is so many questions, y'all. Hold on, there's so many questions. Everybody's like, I love these guys. I know these guys. Somebody said they just had lunch with you recently. Okay, let's see. We talked. You are Christians. We talked about that. Do you or have you ever kept a secret from each other?
Probably.
You're like, probably. Should you share everything with your spouse, or are some things better left unsaid?
They're left unsaid sometimes, and sometimes you change the meaning somewhat.
Change the what?
The meaning,
The meaning.
the impact. Sometimes things come out kind of rough, and you kind of smooth them over before you share with your friends.
Yeah, I think sometimes people overshare and hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
Be careful what you say.
I think you have to say, always consider what's going to be the impact of what you say and how you say it.
That's right.
So, from my point of view, it's how even more than what.
Walt, what is the biggest thing you love about Irene? What is your favorite thing about her?
Oh,
If you had to pick one thing.
she's kind of the ideal, in my mind, the ideal person. She's 40. She is adventurous.
She's what?
Adventurous.
Adventurous. She loves to do things, even more than I do. Yeah, I think that's what attracted me. Almost everything we began talking about, she was enthusiastic about it.
Sounds like she was like more than just a housewife. She did a lot with her life.
She was a friend.
Yeah, and she's your best friend?
Yeah. Yep. But
What did you love about Walt?
Probably the same thing.
Sporty.
Yeah, he'd like to do things, and not only that, but he had ideas. And I can't imagine life without him.
we've taken kind of a strange path. For example, in Vienna, instead of going to the rest of the people in Vienna, we walked across Vienna. We don't speak the language. We didn't know the distance, directions. We just walked across Vienna. We walked across San Francisco. We walked across Sydney, Australia.
Walked?
Walked.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
guys have walked a lot in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Do you think that might be one of the reasons you lived so long?
Maybe that's it.
Because you walk so much.
But we didn't walk for exercise. We walked because we were
Of
curious.
enjoyment.
We were curious to do things. We took chances. In New Zealand, we went off-road. We drove for miles and miles and miles with no roads in New Zealand. We drove, talked to shepherds back in the fields.
So you when you go on a trip, you don't do the typical trip. You kind of go out and
No,
you kind of do your own thing.
and even in Colorado, we were off-roads. We drove cross-country in Colorado and Wyoming.
Oh, yes, we got
No
lost.
roads ahead of us, so we had no idea where we were going.
And you just went.
We just went.
What was you said your favorite trip was New Zealand.
Favorite trip?
Was
One of
New
our
Zealand?
favorite trips. Every trip was different.
Okay.
You know, being in Moscow,
Oh,
I think was
that cannon was pointing right at us.
being in Russia, just talking to Russian people.
We
and
had
seeing
dinner
the
with them.
sights and drinking vodka. But you know, the whole
They're
works.
wonderful
Being in the
people.
Kremlin, seeing where Putin office is located.
If you were given the opportunity to start over in life, what would you do different?
Probably no different.
Nothing different.
I would let that opportunity leave me.
opportunity lead you? What do you
Opportunity.
mean by that?
I mean, I've been fairly successful in a professional, but I never turned down a speaking engagement. If I pardon me. I never turned down the consideration for a new job. I never looked for a job. I had numbers of different positions, professional positions, but I was always offered the position, quite often after a talk.
So you're just saying you wished you had
Somebody
done,
come up and say, "But we'd be interested in this."
and you wished you had done more.
And so I'd come home and say, "Irene, I've been offered a position. Should we do it?" And normally she said yes. I had no idea. I went to St. Louis on a trip as a consultant. And a friend of mine said, "I want you to have dinner with my friend." So I met him at Clayton Inn. He offered me a job. He offered me a job as an academic dean. I couldn't even spell academic dean. Next year I was one. Almost that one.
Almost that. Does money make you happy?
Money, no. We've always had plenty of money. But,
Always.
well, always.
You've had, when you say you've always had plenty of money, plenty like just enough money to do the things you want to
My
do.
first job was in Blue Hill, Nebraska. It paid $2,800 a year. I taught chemistry, I taught physics, I was principal of the school, and I drove a school bus. We lived in a 19-foot trailer with no bathroom. One of
With
the
no
happiest years we
bathroom.
ever had.
One of the happiest times you were around.
Every day, I just got out of the Marine Corps. I went out and shot a pheasant. So we had pheasant for dinner.
So you hunted.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh, my husband would love, he's a hunter.
yeah. I shot him with a rifle.
Yeah.
A pretty good shot.
What do you feel you wasted money on?
Wasted money? I'm not sure we wasted it.
I don't recall wasting very much money.
What would you spend money on again? Travel?
Travel, experience.
What advice, here's a question, what advice would you give your younger self?
I say live. Don't miss the opportunity to live.
Every day.
Every moment.
There's a lot of people watching you that have depression, anxiety. What would you say to those people?
Don't worry. There's ups and downs come along. Things happen. We have a storm. What do? You get out of the storm. You adjust to it. World War II comes along. What do? You enlist. You go with what the other guys do. In combat, what do? You duck. But you can't. No matter what you do, you'll probably put yourself in jeopardy.
Because you've lived so long, you've probably grieved a lot of deaths.
But
How do you grieve properly? Like, for people that are grieving and have lost people, how do you guys, since you've lost friends, you've lost family?
You adjust to it. You have to adjust. You have no choice.
You what?
You have no choice
To what?
to adjusting. You have to adjust.
To adjust.
You either adapt or you don't.
You have to adapt to your it's a new life without them.
Yeah. And I think the human body is made what we call epigenetics. That's a form of adaptation. Our environment causes our genes to change epigenetically. And we pass this on to our children.
Do you believe that people pass on things such as depression, anxiety? Do you think that's
I'm sure they do.
Oh, absolutely.
alcoholism?
Absolutely.
Did either of you battle any diseases, cancer, anything that you could share
I've had bypass surgery
for your heart?
for heart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So that's been your major one.
it was a major one, but I was running 1 week later. Irene's had several operations. She's had
I've had
cancer.
cancer.
You had cancer.
Yeah, she went through chemotherapy. And these are tough times, but you live through it, and you, like I say, you only live that moment, and you adjust that moment. You say to yourself, "What do I do to adjust to this moment?"
There's one thing I think is so important, and that is to have a faith. And if you don't go to church, find one that fits you and go.
Actually go.
That's right. Absolutely. And if you don't fit there,
Go
move
another
on,
one.
find another one.
But you seek out your company. You seek out the people you want to be with. How you want to spend your time. Time and energy is what you have available to you. And you seek that out. And so you do the things. You got to do something. It doesn't do any good to hide.
You just have to do it. Like
Just do it.
if you wake up and you're having like a down day, or if you're feeling down, what do?
Nothing. Well, I believe that nothing ever happens to you unless you're doing it. Unless you're there.
Like, what do you, give me an example? I don't know what you mean by that.
You saw the movie Being There.
I haven't seen that.
It's a great movie.
Being there.
Being There. Chauncey Gardner is a guy who's been a gardener all his life, and the rich man he works for dies. He steps out on the street and he's unaware of the whole world. He's just being there. But he puts the clothes on of this rich guy and he's hit by a car. And because of his clothes, they assume that he's some diplomat or some important person. And just being there, for a series of whole events, he's being nominated for the President of the United States. He's an idiot, but he's just there. But had I not gone to Hastings, Nebraska in 1946, on the 15th day of February, met Irene, we wouldn't be here.
You're just saying do things.
I think you have to be there. To
Be in the moment.
You have to be there for something to happen. My biology teacher used to say, in order to get married, you got to be within shouting distance.
But if somebody, so a lot of the women that are watching and men are dealing with weight loss or obesity or depression, what would you say to someone who's like really depressed about their life? Maybe they're in their 40s.
I would say, once again, be there. Do it. Go.
Just move.
If you're within shouting distance of other people, you're doing things, you have experiences, things tend to grow, and they grow geometrically. They grow around you, and you become part of something bigger than you are. And that's very important.
How does society treat you guys?
Society's always treated us very well.
And
But we expect it.
you expect it.
Expect it.
You have to
Expectation.
expect it.
Expectation is about 90% of achievement.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. If you go to school, you've gone to university, and your husband has, you expect to get an A in chemistry, you probably will. If you expect to get a C, you probably will. In other words, you're going to adjust your behavior what it takes to get your expectation.
I love it. I love that.
So I've had students in chemistry that are very bright and able people, but they're settling for C's. They could be settling for an A or a B. Because they don't. In order to learn, you have to do it yourself. John Dewey said, you learn by doing. I learned by doing. I didn't learn in math class, I learned by doing math. I learned chemistry by being in the chem lab. Or learned physics.
By doing, not sitting there and pondering over it, just do it.
I did.
That's right.
So, random question. You guys have lived a long time. How many presidents have you lived through?
Oh my gosh.
So where would we start? When you were born, it would have been
Roosevelt.
Once you remember.
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All the way.
I remember his
Is that an
fires.
apple tree out there?
At the Peachtree and a pear tree and an apple tree. But the apple
That's
tree is
right. Yeah, that's a
crab apple.
peach
You
tree.
eat them?
No, crab apples should be.
We didn't spray them, so they're dropping.
Oh.
We're not fruit farmers. We have trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many presidents?
Well, the first president I remember is Hoover.
I
President.
remember.
Was he a good
Hoover was an
president?
engineer, a very bright guy, very bright and able person. Just born at the wrong time, did the wrong thing.
The whole Nixon ordeal, what is your take on that?
I was in Nixon. When Nixon was there, I was in Washington, D.C. every week.
He wasn't a terrible president. I think he got a kind of a bad
Very,
rap.
very smart guy.
Yeah.
Very smart guy.
What did you like Kennedy?
I love Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy was in the Navy in Guadalcanal, as a matter of fact. In the old days, he PT
I liked him.
PT boat.
What about Reagan?
He was a honey.
Reagan had a real sense of humor.
Was Reagan probably your favorite?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Reagan just a good guy.
Reagan was just a good
Interactive
guy.
But
He had the best jokes.
You know, one thing that I've noticed, like my mom's parents were Democrats, but in today's standards, they'd be Republican.
Like they, you know what I mean? Like my grandmother was a staunch Democrat, but then it's changed the way that's
Yeah.
gone. So how long have you been here in Salina?
3 years.
What brought you here?
Our daughter.
Do you like it?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know how we got here. We decided we're going to be close to our daughter, so we moved we sold our home. We moved to Parkview.
Senior
Frisco.
Senior independent center, independent home.
And we hated it.
You want to just be on your own?
Well, COVID came along.
Oh, you were in a senior living,
Yes.
and why you didn't like it?
Well, we couldn't see our family.
You can't.
When you were around,
The family would come.
was it like when nurses come in and things like that, or no?
What's that?
It was
Independent.
It was independent. Okay.
Nice, very nice independent living. But we go out the balcony and you cross the family down here, or you can sneak out. So we just said no.
You didn't like it because there was too many people around, or?
And so we saw this house for sale, and I just took money out of the bank, bought the house.
Wow.
We just walked in the door, and I says, "How much do you want for it?" And she said that they said what they wanted. I says, "Okay, I'll give you that, but be out in 1 month."
And it's a great house.
Oh, it's a great house.
It's really nice, and it's probably increased way in value
Yeah.
since you guys bought it.
It's been readjusted for
It's a great
Good investment.
readjusted for
So
That's a
real
handicap.
estate,
Handicap.
you guys have always had
Oh,
bought your
always,
homes and made
always.
money on real estate.
Not always.
Not always, but
Sometimes you lose.
Only
208
once,
was
Walt.
been
Only
lost.
once. We made what we paid for it.
what's your favorite beach?
Beach? We like Daytona Beach?
Like ocean. Like what's the prettiest ocean you've ever been to?
Well, the Salt City, of course.
Yeah.
Well, we lived in Florida quite a while.
Have you been to Destin, Florida?
We not live in Destin,
Oh,
but
yes.
we've been
That's
to
my
Destin,
favorite.
of course.
I love it
That's
there.
a white beach.
The white sand.
It's beautiful.
Just-
We owned some ownership at Daytona Beach for a long time, so we've been there a lot.
I wouldn't mind moving back to Florida.